The voice of sharing. 旅人的香。
Hi, this is Arlene, and together with two more guests for our today's ABC dialogue, we have Miss Jack Wong, and GST advisors from Cheng Co, and also Mr. TC Wong, also holding the same position as a GST advisors for Cheng Co. Today, Cheng Co will be representatives will talk about the services and know-how on GST, as well as how it would affect businesses and consumer. First of all, welcome to our studio.
Okay, good morning.
Yeah, and my question is, what is GST? First of all.
Okay, first thing, I want to clarify that GST is actually not an additional tax system to Malaysia. It's actually going to replace the current sales and service tax. So in next year, 1st of April 2015, GST is going to replace the current SST, we call it, by the percentage of 6%.
Mm-hmm. But what is the difference between GST and the existing tax on goods and services?
I think the main difference is current sales and service tax only it's not cover all the industry. It's only certain industry being covered and pay the tax. For example, sales tax, only manufacturing industry you are subject to sales tax, where service tax is for those restaurant and professional services provider like us, the accounting firm, the legal firm, or the consultancy firm who are paying that tax, where the rest of the industry is not really paying any indirect taxes.
Interesting. So under the Cheng Co, what kind of you consider yourself as the specialized team on as also a one-stop center for GST? What do you do exactly? What kind of expertise that you supply to your clients?
So we Cheng Co as a larger homegrown accounting firm in Malaysia, we actually have already set up a team who specifically do this GST for our client. So what we do is we're doing training, we're doing GST training, we're doing GST awareness program for the public. So not only on our client but also the rest of the SME as well. And apart from this, we also doing some other implementation work for our client. So when client come to us, they need to supply to us the information that we need, and then from there we are going to advise them on
what sort of information is that?
We will do a study on the company. We will the study will be in very detail. We will do some fact findings. We will do some interviews for those HODs that related. HOD means the head of department that related, and from there we will see their problem in terms of GST.
I see. What usually is their problem?
Let's say whether the services or the products provided by the companies is subject to GST or not. If it is, and then what they should do.
Mr. TC Wong, what's the sentiment on the ground on these SMEs regarding on the GST?
So far, what I see and I talk to them, most of the SME is still unsure. They are not prepared yet so far, and they are still asking us what actually is GST. Is it the same as the what that we have now? Like
a lot of people
tax?
are very confused.
Yes.
What the hell is GST? I mean, this is very new, not just to
Yes.
consumers, but I think majority also to businesses.
Yes.
Because can you explain more about the structure of GST that will be implemented in Malaysia?
Okay. Basically, this so far this GST will be imposed based on the certain supply. Like there's a call the standard rated supply, which is mainly I think more than 90% to be subject to the 6%, and also zero rated supply. These are two as core supplies, and another one is these non-supplies are those like the exempt supply. Zero rated is where the businesses they charges those GST to the client but he can use the GST so-called, this is the cost, so-called output tax, can offset against those things that he bought.
I see.
So the balances will pay into this custom.
Can you use a layman's term to explain how one particular good will be taxed under the GST? Let's say, let's say a pencil,
Okay. Let's say I'm not using a pencil.
Yeah.
Maybe I use a product. The product worth maybe 1,000 ringgit. So plus the 6% will be 60. So the 60 will be charged to the customer. Okay. But if let's say the goods is only 800, the cost let's say 48 ringgit. So the person who doing the business, he will be able to use the 60. Will set it off with the 48. So the balances will be paid to the custom. But in previous year, like now, the service tax, we are unable to do that. We got to absorb it.
I see.
Yeah.
Why the government is looking forward to implement GST in this country?
There are a few factors. This is because there's not many Malaysians paying the taxes. Okay. Then another one is because there's a high subsidies have to pay, like the petrol and water, electricity, everything. So mainly the government have to use a lot of funds to subsidize for the rakyat, and that's why we are. The government is facing a problem of the maybe their lack of funds or anything. So they got to really think of it.
When you supply your expertise to the SME, what kind of the key concern among the SMEs they have on the GST?
They are worried the price of their product will goes up, or maybe their cost will become higher.
Would that affect their business?
So it will have a slightly effect, more or less. So their price, let's say, because GST is actually paying by the end consumer, like the end consumer. So the businesses actually do not paying the taxes. What they do is they just collect and account for the taxes only. So they are collecting on behalf of the custom, and then collect from the next level and pay to the custom as well. So actually the 6% won't become their burden. So their burden, I will say that their burden is on those because after the GST come in, they will have more administrative work for them to do to take care of. So that is where they might need to employ some more headcount for them, and then to have a better accounting software for them to capture together all these GST issues and so on.
This is where the Cheng Co comes in to supply your.
And another thing is all the SME. All the SME they needed to purchase the accounting software, especially for the GST.
I see.
Yes.
So there's a lot of preparation for businesses needed.
Yes,
in order
definitely.
for them to keep up with the GST tax. Another thing that is interesting, I think earlier before our conversation, you mentioned that the GST in Malaysia is structured differently from other countries such as Singapore and New Zealand and all that. How different is it, and why the government is trying to create a specialized structure for Malaysia only?
One of the reasons why Malaysia now only implement GST is because our government actually do a lot of studies on those GST implemented in the other countries like Singapore, New Zealand, and Australia. So government saying that we are actually taking the best part from each of these country and to form up our Malaysia GST.
Can you share with us what are the key areas or key features of the Malaysia's GST?
Mainly because we are the government is carrying government, so-called. So those zero rated, which is like the chicken and all the basic goods, there'll be didn't carry any of the GST. Yeah, and also the exempt one, like for example, this public transport, LRT, the buses. Yeah, there's no GST.
So you're talking what are the areas? Subsidized goods are not being are not being taxed by the GST. Is it?
It's not the subsidized. I mean, it's
You
the
see
basic
the
goods.
Basic
necessities,
goods,
the
Yes.
necessity items.
including transportation and all these fluff, all these
Yes.
basic
The public
goods.
transport, yep.
I see. So, but overall, how does the GST affect the prices of other goods?
The other goods, of course, the government said there will be an inflation of 1.8%, definitely, because everything will be embedded with a 6%. So there will be an inflation, definitely.
And one of the key feature of the GST in general is it would affect the upstream and downstream of production, meaning how it will be taxed from the beginning of the production to the end consumer part of the production. So I'm wondering, would it perhaps indirectly affect essential goods like what you said just now, those basic goods?
I think there will be, but not so huge because they are cost zero rated, meaning you don't have to charge the GST to the consumer, but whatever GST that you incur, you can claim it back from the government. That's why it's try to reduce the cost.
I see. So they make it specially
Yes.
for Malaysians.
But however, there's like transportation, all those, they may increase their prices.
I
There's
see.
no choice because
So it will eventually affect all these basic necessities.
yes, more or less, yes.
So why does GST mainly exist in developed countries? I mean, one of the key reasons for having GST is because they said, once you're a developed nation, you need to have a GST because you need to control the consumer habit of a country. So how true is that, and why they have it?
Actually, this why they implemented GST is because they don't want to be too emphasized on the direct taxes like the income tax. It's more resilient. I mean, going through the economic downturn. With the economic downturn, the GST is still there because people are still consuming.
We are still paying.
We are still playing.
Yes. So there won't be any shortfall of the revenue of the government.
You want to add on anything?
Yeah, I think the other reason, the other purpose why GST incurred in those developed nations is because mainly is to helping the country development. So I think this is applicable to Malaysia as well. We also need it to help our country development.
How does the GST help to increase the government's revenue compared to maybe other taxes in existence?
Okay, because of the income tax is quite. There are people saying that the income tax can be planned. I mean in legal form in order to reduce it, but for the GST it's very clear cut. Whatever things that you bought, you have to pay 6%. So there will be a direct impact to the revenue of the government.
Interesting. And perhaps you can share with us the pros and cons of GST in general. Like these are what the people have to expect when a GST is implemented in a country.
When it implemented, of course, everyone will not happy about the GST because GST means goods and services tax. There's a name called tax, so everyone definitely
No one is like to pay
not
tax.
happy about that.
Yeah,
No
I
one is
think
like to
the
pay
main
tax.
sentiment from what I heard at the anti-GST rally is the increase of prices and the high cost of living in that essence.
Yes, definitely. So everything will be most of the goods will be subject to the GST, especially like the motor vehicles. When you 20,000 or 30,000, even 100,000 car, you got to add another
And 6%.
6%.
I
So
Even cars.
Even cars, yes.
But car is so expensive. If you add another 6%, there'll be a lot more to
Definitely,
to
definitely.
put in. Yeah.
That's
Car
why.
is
That's why.
subject to GST.
Again, I would say I expect the household debts to be going increase if the public transport like the LRT is not so advanced. But now the government is doing it, so I hope that there will be changes.
What about the pro for GST?
The pro for GST is mainly there's a two. One is for the government revenue, another one is for the businesses. Because the businesses, they are able to set it off against their GST. Those that he charged the customer and the one that he charges, the people who charge for the goods that he bought, so he can set it off so that the balances will be payable to the custom. Or on the other side, the custom may refund it back.
What is your main advice to businesses when they want to have the GST? Like, I mean, I think a lot of businesses, they would probably be very nervous about this, how it would affect their business, especially if their business is really related to the purchasing power of consumers. So what is your advice on them?
Because GST is only on those businesses who are required to register. So there's a threshold for those SME.
For example?
Not only SME. For those, for us also. The threshold is on 500,000 turnover annually. So for whatever business you are hit the threshold, then you have to get yourself registered.
Okay, so those kind of normal, the restaurant on the street, this kind of people selling char kway teow, they might not need to pay for GST.
Yes, exactly.
Or those kind of like production that, sometimes they have those kind of moms and pops business where they do sell in some stalls, but they don't really make that 500,000 revenue. They don't really need to pay for GST for their products. Is that
they do not need to charge GST on their product, but when they incur some purchases or some expenses, so they might be being charged GST.
So it's an indirect sort of increase in supply
Goods.
the supply goods.
Because it's not registered, so he couldn't set it off with those things. So he has to absorb the GST.
I see. So it will, for SME, it will probably affect the SME with the larger sort of revenue compared to those kind of smaller SME. Would that be the case?
With 500,000, because
in terms of
yes, it's also depending, because some of the company with the GST, they may force those small company to register themselves. Even though you have the less than 500,000, you can make yourself as a voluntary register as a GST holder, so that the buyer from the supplier, so he can offset it with the GST.
And GST will be officially implemented this month, is it?
First of April 2015.
Okay. So when do all these businesses need to be prepared, beforehand?
By right, we're saying that they should start preparing themselves from now on.
Yeah. I see.
In fact, the registration for GST is actually start in 1st of June this year. So from 1st of June, they can actually start getting themselves registered if they are hitting the threshold.
And just want to add more on the effects of GST to prices. What are the key goods or services or even properties that will be increased in prices tremendously?
I will look at it as a residential property will be hit the most, because the residential houses, the developer is not able to charge the GST to the consumer. It's called exempt supply. But at the same time, those people charges those like the materials, then he also he has to absorb it. So I think the developer will embed those GST into the cost. So the price will be
6% more.
I think more than that with the profits.
I see. Interesting, because a lot of people, when they talk, even those people who are anti-GST, when they talk about the effects of GST, usually they will talk about consumer goods, things that you consume daily, but they don't necessarily touch on the issue of property market. And a lot of the people, of course, the highest part of their income are being spent on mortgages for these properties. So is there any efforts by the government to sort of address this if it's going to happen? Like,
I think the government is looking at this point of time, but I think they are still considering what are the things they are going to help the consumer.
But the government, they have anti-profiteering act who, this is where they're going to control the prices, won't go up too unreasonable.
I went to the anti-GST rally 1st of May yesterday, and there were many sentiments on why they do not support the GST. And one of the key area, because as what I mentioned earlier, it will affect the cost of the input and also output of goods and services, making production very expensive. But in your point of view, how this actually would, the GST would actually affect the social economic of ordinary Malaysians?
Of course, we are not, since the GST is imposed on the consumer, so definitely the prices will be going up. Definitely going up. So I think the debts will be going up as well. But one of the report by the Bank Negara, they are saying that they may increase the interest rate this year or maybe next year, so to stop the inflation from going up. But those who are suffering, the most suffering one are those with the larger debts currently. So they got to pay more on their the loan.
I see.
Yeah.
Larger debts, as in like what sort of?
Like the housing loan, or maybe for the company, he has already got a lot of bank overdraft.
I see.
Yeah, the term loans, all sort of banking facility.
All types of loan, no?
Yes.
Higher purchase and so on.
Okay, will it affect people, the habits of or lifestyle of people? Maybe they will go more towards getting into debt, as in like getting more credit card companies to sign with.
Yes, definitely. I think the credit card company are very happily.
Really?
Having a good profit.
I see. Just to keep up with those kind of middle class lifestyle, I guess.
Because nowadays a lot of those youngsters are using the credit card as their one of the funding
Funding source.
funding source as yeah.
I guess with the implementing of the GST, the lifestyle of people also should change in a way.
Yes,
because
definitely.
things will be much more expensive and they cannot lead a life that is as what we are living now, I guess.
Yes, you need to plan before you use it.
It's a way to curb consumerism, I guess, in a way. In Malaysia, we have Peninsula and Sabah and Sarawak. How this would probably affect Sabah and Sarawak? Since Sabah and Sarawak probably is, the cost is much higher there compared to Malaysia. For example, a newspaper costs a few cents more in Sabah, Sarawak. So how would this affect Sabah and Sarawak?
I think.
So in future, they will need to pay GST as well.
Yeah.
But I think they got no choice but to have to plan their spending.
This is very much depends on their lifestyle. So let's say if you have having dining in those restaurants, you are charging GST in future. But so you need to do some planning. Let's say you can choose to cook at home rather than used to eat at those luxury restaurant. Then you will definitely you need to pay. You can pay less.
Because this GST will affect everyone, but I'm just wondering, who will be hit the most? Is it the middle class or is it the working class?
I think it's the working class who hit hard, and the middle class may face some hit.
Some hit. Why the working class will be hit hard on this?
It's also depending on the how high the salary, the increment of the salary. Yeah, because the working group, the salary is fixed.
I see.
Yeah.
The income of the working group has been stagnant, even for middle class as well. It has been stagnant for years. In this case, right? If it's being hit hard by the working class, are the government doing anything about it? At least in the Peninsula Malaysia, is there any?
As what we know that like Jack Wong has mentioned, they came up with this anti-profiteering act.
Profiteering, yeah.
Anti-profiteering act.
Yeah, and it's also depending on the enforcement. The act is there, but hopefully there's the enforcement is there.
Can you explain more about the act, how it would protect, the lives of other people?
Okay, let's say in future if we having spending in outside, and we feel that the product is actually the prices shoot up unreasonable, we can actually report them to the body. That is where they're going to take action. They were going to check whether is there any unreasonable shoot up in prices or not.
I see. I see. In terms of the government increasing in revenue so that it can use this revenue to probably pay back its debt or increase the government's income. Do you think GST is the best way for it?
So far, what I see is GST is the only mechanism that able to increase the revenue in a faster pace.
Faster pace.
Yes.
And it's also stable, right? I mean, the revenue for each year.
Definitely. And then as it's a fair tax if you look in terms of everyone is paying the taxes, including those Bangladeshi who work here, but they didn't pay any taxes. They only spend and those things that we Malaysians have to subsidize them as well. Like they are buying those basic goods, so they'll be so in future they also got to pay some taxes.
I see. So it's a way. I mean, but then it goes back to the question. In a more equal society, GST would probably be an ideal tax compared to. Would it suit the Malaysian condition right now?
There's no timing. Any time will be this the right time. Just only that when do you want to start?
So, is there any alternative ways in terms of tax other than GST? Because there's this one sentiment that I got, which is why don't the government increase the tax, increase their their revenue through taxes like capital gain tax and corporate tax and all that? Why they choose to go for GST instead, even though the sentiment around GST is very negative right now?
The GST is more efficient tax. He can have the big impact on the government revenue compared to those like the capital gain tax, because capital gain tax is only tax upon where there's a transaction of the capital, like the buying houses or any of the properties. Then there will be taxes, and then there will be a defer in the income as well.
I see.
I think the other reason also because those corporate tax and then the individual tax, we call it direct tax. So for those who are paying the portion who are paying direct tax in Malaysia is actually very less and a pretty small portion. But when GST comes in next year, everyone is paying for it.
I see. Let's go back to your services in Cheng Co. So the 6%, right? The GST 6% will be taxed from the manufacturer to the wholesaler to the retailer to the consumer. And one of the sentiments that I got again during the GST rally was why 6% and why not like lesser or more? Is there a reason why 6%?
In fact, before our Prime Minister announced at 6%, we all saying that it will announce at 4%, because 4% actually is the break even for our country.
I see. What about other countries? How many percent? Just give me a few examples. Like, let's say in Singapore, or in Australia and New Zealand.
But the previous, when I was in New Zealand, 10 years ago, they already imposed about 12.5% of the GST.
Wow, that's
12.5.
A lot more.
Yes. So, but gradually they will increase. They are not so far. Many countries they don't not so emphasize on the direct taxes, because direct taxes so far they said can be there's a mechanism to be tax planning, all those, then you have to pay the tax at the end of the year, so they have to defer it. So and also there's the complication, when you're calculating the taxes, you need some there's some according to the act, and what are to be added back and not added back, and there's so many confusion. And in fact, this GST, you just buy something, then they just impose a 6%. Then it's a very, very efficient and very fast.
I see. There are people who say that 6% is just too high. There are people who say that maybe it's okay to have GST, but once our country has become probably a developed country, so if we really want to do it right now, probably we can reduce it to something that is more manageable for Malaysians. What is your opinion on that?
Because of this 6% comes in, so hopefully that our government were going to reduce the rate on our direct taxes, like those company tax rate and the individual tax rate as well.
And you say 4% is the most ideal one, is it?
4% is the break-even point for them.
I see. When you say break-even, what does that mean?
Break-even is where the 4% is going to break-even is where we say that there's low gain, no loss point.
I see.
For the government.
You want to add
something?
For the government.
For the government, yeah.
Oh.
You want to add something
I think
more?
what he said is the 4% is it can reduces the deficit of the government at certain point.
I see.
And then, but the 6% is more ideal for the government to increase a lot in terms of the revenue of the government.
To have some surplus.
I see. To have more, I guess what you meant is so the government has more money to get
to develop our country.
To develop our country.
Yeah,
okay. Can you explain the different GST that will be implemented in different stream of the
Stages.
Of the stages?
Actually, after the GST comes in next year, every level is paying tax. Like for example, for one product from the material supplier up to the retailer, every level is paying tax. So anyway, they are paying tax. The portion that they subject to tax is only on the value added part. That's why many people they also call it GST. In other words, is value added tax, because it's only tax on the value added part.
And you mentioned that the business owner should care about the GST and not see it as it's nothing to us. Why they should care seriously on the GST?
Because the GST is coming, so no one can ignore this fact, because it's we're starting on the 1st of April 2015. So it'll be affecting a lot of those the businesses with the annual turnover with more than 500,000. If and then there's penalties will be imposed.
What are the penalties?
Let's say if you have late register yourself, you are subject to penalty, and late submission of those GST return form, late payment of GST to the custom, all this is that is a penalty and compound.
Yeah, in fact, it's stated in the brochure that you have written. If they are required to register by 31st of December 2014, which is this year,
Yes.
and if they fail to do so, they will be imposed fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit and imprisonment not more than 3 years. So it's quite a serious issue here for business owner to care about this.
Yeah, they can even put you in jail.
Yeah, they can even put you in jail. So, how actually the business owner will be affected in terms of perhaps not just the prices of the goods, but the way they do business? How would it affect?
I think the other way the business should care of is on their cash flow. They should also need to plan their cash flow carefully.
And other than that, I mean, you said earlier on the increase on the administration workload.
Yeah, because GST, there is many paperwork that they need to take care of, and this is where they will need some more headcount. Maybe if they are let's say they are coding people. For right now, they only for example for a company, let's say right now they only want people who are taking care of their accounts. Maybe in future, after GST comes in, they will need to have some more employee on this.
I see. So that means their system must also be equipped with GST features, and
Yes.
and also it stated here they need to submit the GST returns. What is that?
GST returns. Okay, businesses for those who already registered with GST and their annual turnover who exceeding 5 million annually, they will need to submit the return by monthly. So by monthly means that every month they will need to close their accounts to work out how much is their input tax and how much is their output tax, and fill up and submit the form to the custom accordingly.
One interesting question that I would like to ask: how GST will affect our daily lives? For example, the roti canai that we eat, or the petrol that we pay. Will it affect all these prices?
Oh, petrol definitely subject to GST.
Really?
Yes,
Even though
yes.
it's being subsidized?
Yes. So after next year, 1st of April, when we pump in petrol, we will need to pay 6% more.
Oh, okay.
Other
Interesting.
than that, the businesses which you need the transportation and all those, they will definitely will embed the 6% into their costs.
I see. And will the government implement this in stages, or will they implement this right away? What is their agenda on this?
They
Their
will be
plan?
implemented right away.
Right away.
Yes, 1st
Yeah.
of April 2015. That's why they already they are already saying they're giving us sufficient time of 1 year.
Sufficient time of 1 year. Let's say the people are not ready yet, even after 1 year. Do you think it's more advisable for the government to implement this in stages instead? Maybe because it is being affected at different levels of production. Maybe try to focus on one level at a time. I mean, I'm just giving examples.
It's depending on the response and also from the government view. So they may have some survey of their own, see whether the people is ready for all this GST. But in fact, there's no any timing for starting with the GST. You can start on the 1st of April or maybe September. Yeah.
What about other countries? I mean, probably you have more knowledge about how the other countries implement GST. Do they implement it right away, or they give sufficient time and maybe more gradual form of implementing it?
In Singapore, I think they give in some time, but in Singapore, they implemented also on the same almost the same day, 1st of April,
I see.
1994.
So it's all on the same day.
I see.
But it started with a 3% at the time. Then gradually they increased to 7%. Yeah.
So that's how they try to make sure that the sentiment on the ground don't straight away get this shock,
Yes.
Interesting. So any of your last word to add on about GST?
Okay, because I actually saw a statistics I think last week ago. It's saying that 75% of Malaysia SME is actually not ready for GST yet, and they don't know what is GST. They don't know what they should do. So we Cheng Co we are doing all the roadshow. We're doing all the awareness program for the public. From there, the feedback from the public is before they come to join us, before they come to join our program, they actually don't know what is GST as well. So this is where we are keep on doing all this program for the public to educate them what is GST, what they should do, and whether they have to register or not, whether the product they supply is subject to GST or not, and so on.
And the response is very good.
I see.
Awful.
Yeah. Always the awareness program, the seminar that we organize also is all full actually.
Oh, I see. I guess they are scared of the penalties.
And they scare the penalty as well as they wanted to know what is actually is GST is all about. What is the difference between the GST and as well as the current regime, the service tax or the sales tax.
I see. Probably consumers might need you as well to explain about the GST because I don't think any layman Malaysian know fully how GST will affect them compared to the normal sales tax. Yeah.
Because this is new, so everyone still don't know what is it and what they should do.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Miss Jack Wong, and also Mr. T.C. Wong, for your very insightful explanation on the GST. So we hope that more awareness will be on GST in how it would implement and affect Malaysian, and maybe the government can do a bit of adjustment on try to understand whether Malaysians are ready for GST or GST is ready for Malaysia. Either way. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.